Hi, everyone, and welcome. My name is Aruna. I'll be doing the Forecasting Power Hour today. We're going to go over some of the key features in the forecasting tool, as well as some features to kind of get you started with. So today we're going to be going over how to create your first three-way forecast. So forecasting is a great tool. It allows you to create a full three-way cash flow forecast with flexible rules and great outputs. This is ideal for bank and board. Here you can seamlessly import financial data, build responsive forecasts using key business drivers, and surface KPIs and loan covenants to assist with your decision making. Some of the things that we're going to be covering today are going to be comparison pages, how to set up a rolling forecast, KPIs and covenants, drivers, and of course, we'll touch on some of the rules. Rules are essentially how we journal through and generate the balance sheet and cash flow items. Here, we're going to be taking the accruals we have in your forecast months, using the rules to journal through and trigger cash flow timings. You will notice once we get started that every account in the profit and loss will need a rule attached to it. So that will be kind of our starting basis for today. We'll also have some time near the end for any questions. So if you have any questions, please pop them in the chat. I'll try to take a look at it while I'm going through the power hour, but in case I don't, we'll have time at the end. And there I am just on the right-hand side. So if you were curious as to what I look like, that is me over here. And yeah, I'm part of the North American team. So I am based over here, in case you were curious. I'm in Ontario, Canada, just outside the Toronto area. But let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and jump right into the forecasting tool. And here we are. So this is what the main landing page looks like when you go ahead and log into the forecasting or reporting tool. Once you log into Spotlight, you might be over here in the reporting tool. If that's the case, just come one over into the forecasting tool. And you'll kind of know you're in forecasting because everything will now be green. We did have some improvements happening to our main screen. So over here, I have my organization pinned to the top. That can be nice if you're working in an account where you have lots of different orgs. You can come over here, select these three dots, and pin your organization to the top of the list. So if you're constantly working with one particular client, that can be really nice. And the pinned is only for your eyes only. So if somebody else was to log into your practice, they wouldn't see this account has been pinned to the top. So it's just for your view. Taking a look at our main screen again, we do have settings in two different areas. You have your practice settings in your top right-hand corner, and then you'll have your organization settings right over here. To add in your entity, you'll be coming over here to this plus add button, and you can add in your new organization. And if you're ready to eventually start building out consolidations, you can add in a group. Before adding in a group, you'll need to add in all the individual entities and then your consolidation. But for today, we're just taking a look at the individual level. So that's where we're going to kind of get started. But before we jump in and start creating our first three-way forecast, I'd like to talk about forecast schedules. So forecast schedules, you can set up and select schedules to accurately reflect when sales tax, payroll deductions, and other employer taxes are paid. To find these schedules, you're going to come over here to practice settings, and we'll come down here to forecast schedules. Okay. So here you can streamline the forecast process. We have some schedules to help with GST and payroll deductions. We have some default schedules, however, you can always create your own. So these ones are kind of our defaults right over here. But if you wanted to create your own schedule, you can come right over here. It's also noteworthy that you can set up different schedules for different locations. So right over here, we'll have different locations that you can always set these up for. And then all these schedules will be available for you when you go ahead to generate your forecast task. You can then pick one of these schedules that you would like to use. And again, like I said, you can create different schedules based on your location. You can see we have a lot more custom ones here under the UK compared to New Zealand. Okay. So now let's go ahead and go back to our main screen. And let's go ahead and jump right into our account for today, which I'm using Aruna's dummy account. So I'm going to go ahead and select Manage Task. Okay, so here we are in the Task Manager tab. So very similar to reporting, you're always doing that left to right approach. You're starting over here in the Task Manager tab, and you're going to be moving one by one all the way down to your Complete tab. So over here, I've connected to my data source, which is Xero. Unlike the reporting tool where you can connect to multiple different data sources, here in the forecasting tool, you can only connect to one data source. So it's really important you pick that data source properly. Let's say I have actuals in Xero and a budget in Excel, and I'm unsure which one to pick. The better option would be Excel because you can at least put your Xero actuals in your Excel sheet and import everything that way. So just be mindful as to what data source you're using because you don't want to eventually remove it, especially if you've already created any of your forecast tasks. So just make sure you're using the correct one. Okay, so a little bit lower, this is where you can go ahead and either create your three-way forecast or your profit and loss budget. For today, we're going to be creating a three-way forecast, which is going to include your profit and loss budget, your balance sheet, and your cash flow forecast. So this tends to be the more popular option. But don't mind the profit and loss budget. This is also a really great option if you need to quickly create a budget for one of your clients. It's actually very simple to use, so we don't tend to go over it too much, but it's very straightforward. Again, for today, we're going to be focusing on how to create a three-way forecast. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and select create a three-way forecast. And let's go ahead and give it a name. For today, I'm going to call mine demo forecast. And then a short name is really important. Think of this as like an abbreviation. On certain pages, instead of the full name being shown, it's going to be that short name. So I'm going to go ahead and call mine demo. Next will be your forecast period. We can create up to a 5-year forecast. For today, I'm not going to create a 5-year forecast. I'm going to keep it small and simple just so we're all on the same page. But of course, you can always extend this out if you wanted to. Let's extend ours a little bit. Let's do December 2025. And then for last month of actuals, we'll come over here and probably just keep it at January 2025. And I'll go ahead and click next. Now, these are those tax settings I was talking about, so those forecast schedules. You can find them over here in the drop-down, and you can see there's our custom ones over here. If you're ever unsure of what the schedule is doing, come over here and click on this eye icon. It'll tell you the activity month and the payment month. So this one is a 2 month, so February will be in April, March also in April, and so on all the way down. You can also choose to make your forecast tax inclusive or tax exclusive. Again, completely up to you. I would say if you're unsure of one of these tax settings and you're not really sure what to pick, don't worry. Everything that we set up right over here is not hard coded. You can always come back and make changes. So don't worry too much if you're like, hey, the tax schedule I want isn't here. You can always create one at a later date and just select it later on. So don't worry. We're going to go ahead now and click next, and we're going to choose our data source. So I'm going to go ahead and use my Xero data, which I've already previously imported. So I previously imported up until January 31st, 2025, and I did this February 26th. So my data is probably, yesterday. I prepped for this. So I imported this yesterday. So I'm already good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and select Xero, and I can populate my forecast using one of these three options. I can use my imported budget, or I could use last year's budget. If you don't have a budget in your accounting system, don't worry, you can also use last year's actuals, which is actually what we're going to do today. We'll keep it simple just in case one of you don't have a budget. We'll do last year's actuals. And let's go ahead and click save. Okay, so now we're over here in customized data. So again, that left to right approach where we're going to be working from task manager down to customized data to layout, preview, complete. Anytime you see this button over here, refresh profit and loss, please go ahead and click on it. This just means the journals in the back end just quickly need to be rerun because the data you're viewing may not be 100% accurate at that moment. Now I've clicked it, the message is gone, everything's good to go. Let's take a look at this page top down. We can see our data source is Xero, and we can see our forecast period from April 2024 to December 2025. Like I mentioned, this is a three-way forecast, so we're going to have our profit and loss tab, balance sheet tab, and cash flow forecast. For today, we're going to primarily be focusing on the profit and loss. However, we do have a masterclass forecasting webinar, which was done by Richie last year, which kind of goes over a little bit more so in the balance sheet, and he takes it a couple steps further. So if that's something you're ever interested in watching, you can find that again in our help center under webinars, or even on our website under resources webinars, and that is Richie's masterclass, which is an awesome watch. I watch it every once in a while. But yeah, coming back over here, we have our profit and loss, balance sheet, and cash flow forecast. So like I said, today we're going to be sticking in the profit and loss, and we have each section for our profit and loss right over here. You can always click to expand it to view the accounts, or just collapse it right back up. Taking a look over here, we have all of our general ledger accounts, and we have some white cells and some yellow cells. Again, very similar to the reporting tool. All the white cells are our actuals, and all the yellow cells are our budget values. However, the white cells, they have a padlock, and this is by default. All the white cells, so all actual cells will have a padlock in here. This means you can't click in and type in any values. Let's say January 2025. I've actually updated these values in Xero and I need to bring them in. Instead of just coming in here and clicking, which I can't do, what I'll need to do is re-import January 2025 values. To do that, two-step system. We're going to come over here to Task Manager. We'll come to Actuals and re-import, January 2025. I would re-import this. We can do it together. And once this is all done importing, and I see that green successful import, I would have to come back over here into my task. So you can see that task that we just created is now down here at the bottom. And one thing to quickly note is you can have a lot of different tasks and scenarios. I believe you can have over 50. So don't worry about maybe creating, if you're worried about having too many different tasks, you can have over 50. But yeah, let's just wait for this to import. Okay, and it is done. So once my January actuals have been imported, I'll come back over here and I can either click on this drop down and select demo forecast, or I can come over here and click edit. Both will take me to the same place. And then I'll need to go ahead and sync the data. So I'd come over here to sync imported data and just sync for January 2025 and click sync. And that would bring in the new January actuals. So if you ever need to update any of the information in these white cells, two steps, Task Manager, sync. And that's it. Fairly straightforward. So while we're over here on the right-hand side, again, this is where you can go ahead and sync any imported data. And right above that is your show settings. So this is all of those settings we just used to create the forecast. So if you need to come back over here and maybe change one of these tax schedules, you can. If you need to extend your forecast period, you can do so from here as well. Okay, so yeah, those are kind of some of the prompts over here. Something that's a little bit different compared to the reporting tool is you'll notice over here on the left-hand side, we have a bunch of rules. So like I mentioned before, in the profit and loss, every single account needs to have a rule attached to it. And because of that, we give you a bunch of default rules. And the default rules are given to each account based off of their report codes. So if you haven't heard of report codes before, really quick summary as to what they are. Report codes are pretty much your account mappings. They tell Spotlight where the account should be. So for example, consultancy revenue. This report code is trading revenue. So in your profit and loss, it'll be at the top, opposed to other sales, which has an other revenue report code. That's going to be at the bottom of your profit and loss. If one of these report codes is incorrect, simply click on it and you could remap the report code. So now this one is rev.oth, which is other revenue. But if you didn't want that, you could always revert it back and click save. Once you make a change to a report code, the next time I was to import from Xero, it would keep those changes I made. So you only ever have to change your report code one time. And while we're here, we also have the Spotlight display name column. This is just a way of renaming your account in Spotlight without having to rename it in your accounting system. It can also be used to group accounts together. So for example, interest income and other sales, they both have the exact same Spotlight display name, so these two could be grouped together onto one singular line. But moving back over here to our rules are determined by your report code. So the first time I imported, these were all the report codes I was given. So any account that has the RAV.TRA report code has the RAV.TRA default rule. And then these two report codes, other revenue, just get the RAV default rule. But all the rules work exactly the same. They are pretty much all your timings of payments. So I'm going to go ahead and click on one. Okay, so like I said, these are your timings of payments. The first thing we have over here is your rule name and then your rule type. Then you can see how many accounts are using this particular rule. So right now, 5 accounts are using it. So I can come over here and view the 5. I could add another account in here if I wanted this one to be part of the REV.TRA default rule, or I could deselect it. Not a big deal. Next, like I said, are your timings of payments. So let's say I need to adjust this. I could go ahead and change this to a 30 and a 30. As long as it equates to 100% over here, you're okay. I would then click next and save rule. And those timings of payments is what's going to go ahead and flow into your cash flow forecast. So I'm going to go ahead and refresh this profit and loss. But let's say I have an account that collects revenue differently to all the other REV.TRA default rules. And I want to, again, collect revenue differently, let's say for product revenue. Not a big deal. What I could do is I can come over here to profit and loss and add my own custom rule. To keep it simple, I like to make my rules the exact same name as the account, but you know what's best for you and what works for you. So I'm still just going to go ahead and call mine product revenue. Rule type will be revenue. And then I will go ahead and find the account, product revenue. And let's say for this one, I collect 100% in the current month. I would go ahead and click next and save the rule. Okay, so now I have that product revenue account with its own custom rule. And if I were to click on here, I can see 100% is being collected in the current month. I could add this rule to other accounts if I wanted to as well and click save, well, next and then save. But for now, I'm just going to keep it over here. And what's really cool is your own custom rules are going to be in the green color, letting you know really quickly that this rule is custom to you and you've added it in. And like I said, this is what's going to be reflected on that cash flow forecast. So we are collecting 100% in the current month. So let's say February, this is 9,594. If I were to go to my cash flow forecast, what did I say? February. It would be reflected over here. So yeah, pretty easy, pretty simple. So let's come back over here to the profit and loss. But yeah, 100% in your current month. Of course, mine will not look 100% accurate because I haven't selected all of the other rules yet and I haven't set up everything in the balance sheet. But once you go ahead and start selecting all your rules and setting it up, you'll be good to go. Just like over here, that left to right approach, you're going to want to do that over here as well. Because not only is the profit and loss impacting the cash flow forecast, your balance sheet is also impacting the cash flow forecast. So you're going to want to start over here in your profit and loss, and then move over here to your balance sheet and then your cash flow forecast. Because things such as like your AR and your AP rule are also going to be impacting that cash flow forecast. So not until everything is set up here will things look accurate over here. So again, starting your profit and loss, get your default rules ready to go. That will flow into your balance sheet, and your balance sheet will flow into your cash forecast. Okay? So yeah, you can always go ahead and set up default rules for any one of these and your own custom rules. If I were to come over here, the exact same option. And if I wanted to look at, let's say, one of these expense rules, if I were to click on it, same type of idea. It is just your timings of payments. And again, you're looking for it to equate to 100% right over here. And we could take a look at a cost of sales as well. So the exact same thing. Okay. So those are pretty much your rules over here in the profit and loss section. You would have noticed underneath, there was something called add new dynamic rule. And let's go ahead and touch on this. So dynamic rules can be used with things called drivers. And you're like, Aruna, what's a driver? If you don't know what a driver is, it is My explanation may not be 100% awesome because a driver can be anything you want it to be. And if you haven't used drivers yet, that can be maybe a hard thing to wrap your mind around. But honestly, a driver can be anything you want it to be to help populate your forecasted values. So some examples is a new hire. So let's say you're hiring somebody starting, let's say September 2025. You could add a driver into your forecast starting September 2025 to reflect their salary. So you can definitely go ahead and do that as well. So that is an option. The option that we're going to be doing today is going to be just a simple revenue driver. So to do that, I'm going to come over here to customize data and I'm going to go over here to drivers. And I've already set up two drivers for today and added in some values, but we can set up a different one together. So you can kind of see what that looks like. So I'm going to go over here and select add driver. But before I do that, I'm going to want to make sure my from and to date match at least my forecast period. My to date over here is till December 2025, which is beyond my forecast period, so I'm okay. And I can go ahead and select add driver. For today, let's say we need to start calculating our company sells chocolate now. So we need to calculate chocolate sales. First thing I need to do is add in my chocolate price. And the category, I'm going to keep it as price. Save that. And then I need to add in my chocolate quantity. And my category will be quantity. And categories can be really nice because if you have a lot of different drivers, you'll end up with a really long drop-down list. So it can make finding them in that drop-down a lot easier. And you'll see what I mean shortly. But then I'll need to go ahead and add in these values for the chocolate price and the chocolate quantity. Now I can go ahead and type this in manually, or I can use something called the adjustment tool right over here. The adjustment tool is that little white circle, and I can go ahead and add in a value and click apply. And this will add in that value for the entire date range over here. Next will be my chocolate quantity. Again, look, I'm noticing I'm clicking into the April 2023 cell. So my from date will be April 2023 and my to date will be the last cell in this date range over here. So that's why it'll be December 2026. I could go ahead and adjust this if I wanted to, but we'll keep it at that. And I'll make my chocolate quantity 5. So now I have all of this filled out all the way until the end. Close your eyes if this hurts. I'm going to scroll all the way down so you can see it's completely filled out till December 2026. And now I want to use these drivers in my forecast. I'll come over here, go to my demo forecast, and I'll wait for any changes to be made. And now I'll use them in a revenue account, but I don't have a chocolate sales account. So what I'll need to do is come to add account, chocolate sales. There it is. And now I'm going to go ahead and add a dynamic rule to this particular account. So I'm going to keep it again very simple. I just called mine chocolate sales. Rule type will always be dynamic. And I'm applying this to my chocolate sales account. And it's really simple. My whole entire formula is just going to be chocolate quantity and take in note those categories, chocolate quantity multiplied by chocolate price. And that's it. And this is the formula builder right over here in the forecasting tool. It's very similar to the reporting tool. So if you have the hang of it there, you'll get the hang of it over here in the forecasting tool. You're pretty much using these drop downs for either an account or a driver, and then utilizing these buttons over here. And if you need to remove something, click and drag it over into this box. But yeah, that's my entire formula. Very simple. I'm going to go ahead now and click next and save the rule. And we're going to wait for those changes to be applied. Okay, so I did talk about the importance of selecting this refresh profit and loss, and the reason being is take a look over here. I have my chocolate sales account with that new chocolate sale rule attached to it, but nothing is being populated. So I need to go ahead and select this refresh profit and loss so those journals can be rerun in the background. Now you'll notice it looks a little different, and I have the correct values over here. I have this plus sign next to chocolate sales. So if I were to click on it, it'll expand. I'll see my original account chocolate sales and no values from here. And I'll see my dynamic rule over here and that purple dynamic rule So if you remember over here, dynamic rules are going to be purple. And if I, oh, what'd I do? And if I were to go ahead and click on here, chocolate sales, I'll be able to see that formula that I used over here. So I can always edit the formula if I needed to, or even delete the rule. And from this rule, I can see the value 10 is being driven. So that is what's creating this value over here. If there was a value in the existing account, let's say, let's just add in 2. Both of these will then be combined together to give me the overall value. But because I had no values coming from my original account, that's why everything else was 10. But let's say all of a sudden, and let's pick a nice date. Let's do August 2025. The price of chocolate is going to go ahead and increase. I can't make those changes from over here. What I would need to do is go back to my driver. And what did I say? August 2025. Let me scroll over. Okay, so I said the chocolate price was going to increase. I'm going to go ahead and select in here. So my from date is now August 2025, and I'm going to adjust this to 4. Click apply, close this off. So now I've adjusted the driver. And if I were to go into my forecast, wait for those changes to be made. Now I'm going to scroll on over to August 2025. I can see that new value is right over there. So while you can't edit the drivers in the forecast itself, you'll need to go back over here to the driver tab and just make any adjustments there. And once those drivers have made an adjustment, anywhere where they're being applied to, so all the different forecast tasks, any scenarios, it will feed right into that dynamic rule right over here. Okay, so yeah, that's one way to go ahead and use dynamic rules is with drivers to help populate those forecasted values. Another way you can use a dynamic rule is to base values off of another account. So pretty much, let's say over here, I have an account, let's say called Project Consultancy. Let's do that. And let's say project consultancy is always going to be a percentage of our product revenue. What I'll do is I'll come over here, profit and loss rules, add a new dynamic rule. I'm just going to call this project consultancy. Oh, I should make that a capital. Project consultancy. Choose to apply this to my project consultancy account. And like I said, project consultancy is always a percentage of product revenue. So I'll come over here, find the product revenue account. Oh, I said product revenue, and I would just multiply this by a percentage. And then I'll go ahead and click next, save the rule. Okay, and now I can see there's values driven over here. If I were to click and expand on this, again, I would see my dynamic rule. And this is what's driving the overall values for my project consultancy account. So again, you can use dynamic rules in 2 different ways with drivers or to base them off of values held elsewhere in your profit and loss. So let's say all of a sudden my project revenue is going to increase by a certain amount starting in April. So I would go ahead and click in here, use my adjustment tool. And let's say it's going to adjust by a percentage over here. And it's going to be a previous month plus adjustment. Let's say a 6%. And I were to go ahead and click apply, close this off. Refresh that. Okay, so now there's a different value over here. And if I were to scroll down, I can see the oh, where is it? We can see the values have increased over here as well. So if I were to make adjustments over here, it's going to automatically flow right into my dynamic rule. So just like the drivers, if I were to make adjustments to the drivers' values, it would flow into the dynamic rule. If I were to make adjustments to a particular account that's used in a dynamic rule, that will also flow into that particular dynamic rule. I hope that made sense. But yeah, that's two different ways you can use dynamic rules. And again, you can use them in your profit and loss section. So definitely go ahead and take a play. If there's nothing that's maybe sparking any interest right now in terms of using dynamic rules and drivers, don't worry about it. Don't force yourself to use them. As you start to build out your forecast organically, you'll find ways to use drivers and dynamic rules. Okay? So yeah, that is pretty much your rules over here in the profit and loss. You have, of course, your custom rules, your dynamic rules, and just your traditional timings of payments that we give you. Now, you would have noticed when I clicked in here, there was the option to use the adjustment tool. And that option is available in the cost of sales and expense section as well. So let's say starting in April again, we'll stick with April. We're going to have an increase for all expense accounts. Let's take note of accounting fees. Accounting fees right now is $420 for April 2025. But I need to make an adjustment for all expense accounts. What I can do is select this Adjust Expense Accounts button. And I will go ahead and I can see 20 accounts are being selected for this adjustment right now. I could deselect a couple if I wanted to. So if I wanted to do a bulk adjustment, let's say for 10, I could deselect 10 of these. If I were to deselect, it would then show how many I'm currently using the adjustment for. But for this one, I'm going to do I'll just do 19 for now. And I'm going to adjust by percentage each month. And let's pick a nice number. Let's do 10. I could do the previous month plus adjustment. I could do the previous year plus adjustment, or I could do the existing value plus the adjustment. For right now, I'm going to do the existing value plus adjustment. And this is also available in this drop down over here. But I'm going to stick with this one, adjust by percentage each month, and I'm just picking the existing value plus adjustment. I could add a comment if I wanted to over here to kind of, if a lot of people are working on this forecast and I want them to know I made this adjustment and my reasoning why, I could add a comment. I won't right now, and I will go ahead and click apply. I could do another adjustment if I wanted to, but that's it. I'm going to go ahead and click close, refresh this profit and loss, and scroll down, and there it is. So yeah, you can definitely go ahead and utilize this however ways you wanted to. Again, that is your adjustment tool right over here. And that's also available for you in the cost of sales and the revenue section as well. You can do bulk adjustments from here. Okay, but yeah, that is pretty much going to be the profit and loss tab over here in customized data. That was a quick run through of, again, those rules, drivers, and then dynamic rules. So yeah, that was pretty much it. So now going back to what we had to go over for today, we kind of already did drivers and rules. Now let's go ahead and take a look at comparison pages, rolling forecasts. Let's do that. So to use a comparison page, you're going to want to have different scenarios and maybe a rolling forecast, something like that to compare things to. To do that, you're going to want to come over here to your Task Manager tab. So let's say I'm all done with my demo forecast. I've made all those adjustments, I've adjusted those rules, add in drivers and dynamic rules, and I'm really happy with the way it is, and it's done. And now I want to start building different scenarios. What I can do is I can come over here and select Make a Copy. And what I'm going to do first is give it a name. I'll call this one Rising Cost. And then I want to give it a short name. I'll call this Cost Rise. And then I'll want to go ahead and give an adjustment. The adjustments are optional. If you don't do an adjustment, you're making an exact same copy of your original forecast. So adjustments can be really nice again for those scenarios. So for this one, let's say I know the cost of sales is going to increase by 10%. I can go ahead and do that. And then I'm going to go ahead and click copy if that's my only adjustment. And now I'll have my new forecast right over here. Now my new forecast works completely separate to this original forecast. So now they're two completely separate forecasts. So let's go ahead and click edit and take a look at it. So again, over here is my new forecast, and the cost of sales would have had a 10% increase compared to my original one. And like I said, these two forecasts now work completely individual to each other. So coming back over here to product revenue, if you remember, this was 100% the current month, but maybe in this one, it's going to be a 50 and a 50. And I'm going to go ahead and click next and save. Let's refresh that. So now over here in my rising costs, product revenue is collected slightly different. And if I were to go back to my original forecast and select this rule remains the exact same. So again, they work completely separate to each other. The only thing that they have in common right now, and that will be impacted both at the same time, would be the drivers. So if I were to go ahead and make any changes to either the chocolate price or the chocolate quantity driver, because these drivers are both used in the same dynamic rule in both of these forecasts, both will be impacted. So just kind of keep that in mind. Drivers can live in many different forecast tasks. So if you were to make changes in a driver that's being applied to more than one forecast task, it will impact any forecast task that's being applied to. Again, I hope that made sense, but yeah. So that's the only way that they're still kind of connected, but besides that, they're completely individual to each other. So again, the way we did that was Task Manager tab, and we just made a copy of our original forecast. So once this is all done, you can then use it on things such as comparison pages, which is over here in Customize Layout. And we do have 3 comparison pages for you. We have a comparison profit and loss, balance sheet, and cash flow forecast, which is these right over here. If these pages aren't in your current report, don't worry. Come over here to add page, and you can just type it in, comparison, and there's those 3 pages, and you can just add them into your report layout. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at our comparison profit and loss. All 3 of these pages work exactly the same in terms of settings. So once you know how to set up one, you'll be good to go. So we're over here in the comparison profit and loss. And if it's your first time opening up this page, this is the first screen you'll see, which is your customized columns. You're going to want to pick your date range. My date range will be to December 2025. Actually, let me double check that. Did anybody else forget what my forecast period is? April 2024 to December 2025. Okay, let's go back. I had a little quick blank moment there. So let's go ahead and I'll change this to April 2024 to December 2025. So that is my forecast date range. Then I'm going to want to pick my base comparison. So everything that's going to be compared to it. So for that, I'm going to pick my demo forecast as this was my original forecast. Then I'm going to choose to compare it to my rising cost. And again, this is where those short names come into play. So you're going to want to make sure you give your forecast task a good short name. You can compare up to 4 different comparisons over here, so 4 different tasks, and you can choose to either show a dollar variance, percentage variance, or both, completely up to you. I guess for today, so you can see everything, we'll keep both, but you may just wish to have one. And I'm going to go ahead and click update, and let's go ahead and see what that looks like. Okay, my original forecast will always be in blue, and whatever I'm comparing it to will be right over here on the right-hand side. So I have my cost rise and my 2 variants. If I were to have another task, it would be over here. Let's say I have like a worst case scenario. It would be over here. I would say worst case and then have the 2 variance columns. So everything, it won't be back to back. It'll be cost rise, its variance, your new task and its variance, your new task and its variance. I hope that made sense. But yeah, so that's pretty much what this looks like. If I were to come over here to show settings, maybe I don't like all this detail. I can come over here and choose a summary only. You can see over here your display names are being used, so that's back in customized data and those spotlight display names. I can always come back over here and customize the columns if I've added in a new forecast task and I want to show it over here. I can also customize rows. So for example, net profit and net profit percentage are not being shown, so I can add those in. If I want to change some of this wording, I can do so over here as well. Completely up to you, and then you would just click update. Also over here in the dropdown is how your accounts are going to be viewed. So right now they're done alphabetically, but you could show them by value, completely up to you. But yeah, let's go ahead and do summary only and click update. Okay, so there's my summary. Only the revenue section is expanded. Everything else is pretty much collapsed onto one particular line. Okay, so that is pretty much it. You can see from my revenue section, I don't have any variance because the only place we made adjustments to is going to be our cost of sales. So that's the only place I'll have a variance as of right now. So that is your comparison profit and loss. Like I said, all three pages are pretty much the exact same in terms of setup, so we won't go over all of them for right now. So let's go back over here to our Task Manager tab. So like I said, you can have a bunch of different tasks created. You can create as many as you would like, up to 50. But let's say I want to create a rolling forecast. There's two ways. I could keep my original forecast and just make that a rolling forecast, or I can always make a copy of it and make that my rolling forecast. Completely up to you. But for today, I'll show you how to make the changes in your original one. To do that, we're going to go ahead and select Edit, and we'll come over here to Show Settings. And it's really simple. All you have to do is roll it forward. So I'll come over here. Maybe I want to make this to December 2026. I could change my last month of actuals. I don't have any other actuals as of right now, but I could change it to, let's say, January 2026 if I had them. But of course, this month is not in the past, so it wouldn't work as of right now. But let's say you wanted to, as long as this date is in the past, and then I would just re-import Task Manager up until January 2026, and then sync the data in here. But just for demo purposes today, we'll keep it at January 2025, and I'll go ahead and click Apply. So now we'll wait for these changes to be made. I can see my to date is till December 2026, and if I were to scroll all the way down, I'll have until December 2026 cells. Unfortunately, a lot of these cells are going to be zero as of right now because I don't have anything to populate them with. The only thing that is actually populating is our chocolate sales because of those drivers were set up until December 2026. But what I could do again is use the adjustment tool to help populate these values. So I can either do an individual adjustment by clicking on this white circle, or I could do a bulk adjustment. In this case, I'll do a bulk adjustment just to make life easier. I'll adjust my revenue accounts, all 8 accounts. I will do a percentage, and I will do previous year plus adjustment. And let's increase these all by 5. And I'll go ahead and click Apply. Close that off and just refresh. And now that's completely, where are we? Now it's completely populated for me all the way down till December 2026. And again, I can do that for over here, adjust my cost of sales just by percentage each month. I'll again do previous year plus adjustment, keep it simple, click Apply, close this off. Refresh this. And then there it is, all the way down till December 2026. So that's how you can go ahead and create a rolling forecast. The second way you can create a rolling forecast is if I were to go to Task Manager tab, and instead I want to go ahead and click Make a Copy. And I'll call this one Rolling Forecast. And I'll call this Rolling. I don't want to do any adjustments right now, so I'm just going to keep it as is and click Copy. So now I have my rolling forecast, which is an exact copy of my demo forecast. But for this one, I want to extend the period to December 2027. I'll come over here and click Edit, and it's the exact same steps. I would wait for this to be gone. Go to Show Settings, change this over here to December 2027, click Apply, and then I would do the exact same things in terms of adjustment to help fill out my new values onwards. And then what's really nice in your Task Manager tab, if you do this option, is you would have your original forecast and your rolling forecast. Some people choose to call this, let's say, rolling forecast, in this case, 2027, and then do another one and call it rolling forecast 2028. That's a really nice option again. And then what you could do is you can come back over here to customize layout, go all the way down to your comparison, go to Show Settings, and if you want, you can always add it in and click Update. And there it is. So there's my rolling and my 2 variants right over there. I think it's nicer that I showed you because my explanation of trying to explain it, what it would look like over here wasn't super nice. So this is good. At least you can see what that looks like. As of right now, for this particular date range, April 2024 to December 2025, there isn't going to be any differences between the demo and the rolling, but if there was, you would be able to see the variance over here. Okay, so again, that's how you can go ahead and create those rolling forecasts. Now, the last thing for us to go over for today is going to be KPIs and covenants. And you may have saw this over here under customized data, KPIs and covenants. So I've already created a KPI and covenant just in case. I wasn't sure how we were going to do time-wise for today, so just in case I created one. So it's going to be very similar steps in terms of as drivers. First thing you're going to want to do is make sure your from and to date at least encompass your date range for all of your forecast periods or for whatever ones you want to use it for. So now that I have my new rolling forecast till December 2027, I may wish to extend this to December 2027 as well. Okay, and then to add in a KPI, you'll go ahead and select Add KPI/Covenant. Again, I've already added one in, so let's go ahead and take a look. So once you click that Add KPI/Covenant, this is the exact same window you'll see. First thing you'll want to do is give it a name, so project revenue percentage, and then your target. I just continue to call it target, but you can call it whatever makes sense for you. You can call it industry standard. Again, whatever makes sense for you. I just kept mine as target. And then I have over here my formula. And that's kind of the nitty gritty as to what I want to go over today. So let's go ahead and remove this. Okay, so that formula was project revenue divided by trading revenue multiplied by 100. Project revenue, if you remember, is an individual account. So I'll come over here, select add account, and I'll go ahead and find it. Project revenue. Then again, it was divided by trading revenue. And trading revenue is a group of accounts using the same report code. So I come over here, revenue, trading, add that in. And then I would just go ahead and multiply it by 100%. And that's my entire formula right over there. And then I could go ahead and click save, and then it would pop up right over here. Then your next option would be to give it a target value. So you can come over here and use that same adjustment tool to populate the target throughout. Let's say our target changes, let's say in January 2025, it's no longer 100. Maybe we decreased it. Maybe we noticed we weren't hitting our target. So it's no longer 100. We're going to change it to 90. I'll go ahead and click apply, close this off. And now if I were to scroll down, there's our new target value all the way through. And what's really cool, for every single forecast task you add in, it's going to automatically calculate what the actual value, or in quotations, the actual value would be compared to the target over here. So if I were to create another forecast, it would automatically appear here and it would do the calculations for me. So very simple to create those KPIs and covenants. And then to use them in your report, we would come over here to KPIs and covenants. And this is the first thing you'll see. First thing again will be your date range. Because I have that rolling forecast, again, I may wish to extend this out to December 2027. I don't have to if I don't want to, but just in case I want, I'll go ahead and do so. Then you'll add in your KPI/covenants by selecting the add KPI and then coming over here in the drop down. Let's say I have two KPIs and I want to show them on this particular page. Please be mindful as to which order you select them in, because whatever one is up here, the first one, will be the first one in the list when you go ahead and populate the page. So the order that you select your KPIs in is the order that they'll appear on the page. Same thing for your task. So again, I want to make sure I'm clicking my demo one first, and then let's say I want to show my rolling, and then I want to show my rising cost. I can also choose to use the short name if I wanted to, and I'll go ahead and click update. Okay, so there it is, my project revenue, and then the exact order I selected them in is right over here. So that's pretty much it on how to show the KPI/covenants. The last thing I'll quickly show you, because we are pretty much good for time, was we did have a drivers page. So if you ever want to show drivers also in your forecasting report, you can do so over here. You would go to your show settings and then just add the driver in. What was my other one? Chocolate quantity. And you can choose to show the categories. I like to show them because I think it looks a little bit neater. And again, I can extend this out if I wanted to. Click update, and then you can show your drivers that way in your report as well. Okay, so that is pretty much it for what we had to go over today. So we went over again those comparison pages. We have the profit and loss, balance sheet, and cash flow forecast. Your rolling forecast, it's very simple. You're just pretty much extending out your to date. KPI/covenants, again, very simple to set them up and you can show them in your report itself. And drivers and dynamic rules, which can be used hand in hand. And then your traditional rules that are over here in the profit and loss, all those default rules, which are pretty much your timings of payments. So that's what we went over today, and of course, the adjustments as well. That is what we usually cover in the forecasting power hours. Again, if you're curious and you want to take it to the next level, we do have Richie's masterclass. So you can come over here to Help Center, and we have a bunch of webinars over here. So you can go ahead and take a look at the forecasting ones. Again, we have, oh, there's even another masterclass over here. So definitely come over here and take a look. We do a lot of forecasting webinars. These ones are also really nice, the forecasting focus. We have 4 of them, and there's one on consolidations. We have one on comparison pages, drivers, and KPIs. Completely up to you if you want to take a look at them. They're really great. They're also about 30 minutes long. So nice quick watch. If you have any questions, you can of course always stay in here in the Help Center and go to our help articles. You can come over here to the forecasting section and just simply click in and see, let's say, getting started with forecasting. This one's a really good one because it takes you through each particular step and it'll link you to different articles and videos. So you can definitely come over here and take a look at that. But let's say you're in here and you're like, my question's not getting answered. I can't figure it out over here in the Help Center. Don't worry. Come back over here to Help and let's go to Raise Support Query. Here you can type in your question and then always choose to invite customer support into the organization. This allows us to see exactly what you're looking at. And if you want to send us any screenshots or any files, you can go ahead and attach those right over here. And they'll be sent right over to our support team. But yeah, that was pretty much what I wanted to go over today. Thank you so much for joining me on the Forecasting Power Hour. And I'll stay on just in case anybody has any questions. But thank you again, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Take care.